medical recommendations. Before starting a treatment program,
Car crashes don't happen in slow motion. They happen fast. In a crash, there's no time to check if your child's in the right car seat. Don't think you know. Know you know. Visit safercar.gov/the right seat. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
There's no greater pain a parent can suffer than losing a child. And yet heat stroke
Trinity,
deaths
do
in
you
hot
have a
cars
sub yet?
rise. The temperature
we're
inside a
live.
vehicle can reach deadly levels in just a few minutes. Leaving
are?
windows cracked does
Yep.
not help. These preventable deaths can occur even when the outside temperature is as
Just
low
waiting
as
for the,
57 degrees.
yeah,
Never
just waiting
leave
for the
your
go-ahead
baby
so
or
I can run the
child in a
intro.
vehicle, even for a short period. And always check the back seat before you get out of the car. Where's baby? Look before you lock. Paid for by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
100.7 and 1680 AM. The following show and its
There we
content are the responsibility of the show's producers and participants.
Information related in this program is not meant to substitute medical recommendations. Before starting a treatment program, you should consult your physician.
T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ignition. Liftoff.
Shut up and sit down.
That's right. Welcome to the Couch Live, everybody. Hello. WPSN99.com. Of course, WOKB AM right here in Orlando, which is what? 1680 AM on the dial here in Orlando. And of course, 100.7? 100.7.
100.7 FM.
That's right. I am the street certified dope doctor here with you. This is Dope and Dharma, the Couch Live edition of Dope and Dharma, which we do every Monday night here on WOKB radio in Orlando area. And of course, for those of you listening and watching a different way, I'll have my partner in crime, the Dharma guy, Trinity Phillips, explain to you how you're listening to us or how you can watch us if you want to join us this way. Go ahead, Dharma guy.
Yes, sir. If you want to watch us live, if you're not currently doing that and you're wanting to watch us live, you can go to facebook.com/WPSN99, or you can just look up Dope and Dharma. And we're also on YouTube right now, live on Dope and Dharma.
There you go. And of course, our producer here in the studio over there at WOKB is our man. I'm going to give him we got to give him another name. Give him another name because it just says the Couch Live on there when he comes on. Man, what can we put on there? Can we put anything else on there, Dharma guy? Can we
put Shaw, man?
You
The
can put Shaw,
relaxer.
man. The relaxer? Well, that sounds a little
you
bit
got
like a different
Dharma
show.
guy, the dope doctor, and the relaxed on the couch live.
Yeah, chilly chilled. You know?
Chili Willy.
That'll work.
It's the
man.
show
That'll work.
man right
Chilly
here.
with it.
I
The
got you.
Shaw man, there it is. I like that. Let's do that. Whenever he gets on, Trinity, that's what you got to do. You got to change it to the Shaw man.
Right on.
We got Chris Shaw over there at WOKB Studios. How's everything going, Shaw?
You already know. Oh, there it is right there. You know.
Yeah, it's all going good, right? You know, and so here we are. Anyway, we got a nice little show planned out for you guys today. We're going from 8 p.m. to 9 p.m. Again, Trinity and I are enjoying this different type of way of doing the show, doing it through StreamYard. Thank you, StreamYard and the Duck,
Yes,
for
sir.
letting us do this. Of course, thanks to everybody at Surf Monkey Media, WPSN99.com, for helping us along with this and along with our sponsors. You know who you are. Remember, while we're talking about addiction, while we're talking about recovery, which we've been doing for the last 23 years, if while we're talking about it, something inspires you to want to get help and want to do something about it, you can call 833 Now Matters. That's 833 Now Matters, so that someone from the Now Matters More Foundation can help you out. It doesn't matter what state you're in. You don't have to be in Orlando. You don't have to be in the city. You could be anywhere in the country, in the world, really. Maybe we have some outreach in some country you're trying to get help. Then we'll try to help you out with it. But other than that, let's get on with the show, Trinity. All right, so what are we talking about today, Senor Trinity?
Well, I think it was last week. One of our watchers, which is commenting right now on Facebook, or is Marissa, She asked us a question that we both thought was pretty interesting, and it
Yep.
was, is addiction a disability? So we said, hey, we should probably do a show on that. That sounds like a good
Yep.
question. Hence,
Yep.
today's topic: is addiction a disability?
Is addiction a disability? Well, that's a good question, man, because I mean, when you think disabilities, Trinity, and by the way, volume's okay, Trinity, you hear me okay? I'm
I
assuming.
hear you perfectly.
All right. So when you think disabilities, I don't know about you, but I tend to go right to the aspect of it is something that if you have it, you can collect disability. I mean, is that the wrong way to think about disabilities? But as soon as I hear disability, I automatically think somehow you can collect some sort of benefit from it. I'm not so sure that's the right way to view it, and I don't know necessarily why I automatically think that, but I do. What about you? When you hear the word disability, where does your head go?
Well, to be honest with you, once I found we were doing this for sure,
Mm-hmm.
I actually did. I looked up like what is before I could see. I'm the analytical dude, so I had to
Mhm.
first what is the definition of disability, like before I
Okay.
would get further into that, because my emotional thoughts are one thing, but what is what's classically considered that. So I looked it up and said the legal definition of disability states that a person can be considered disabled if they are unable to perform any substantial gainful activity due to a medical or physical impairment or impairments which can be expected to result in death or which has lasted or can be expected to last for a continuous period of not less than 12 months. So, when I hear disability, the first thing I think of is
Mm.
wheelchair. I don't know why. That's just word association. But when I
Right.
looked it up, based upon that definition, my answer is yeah, it's definitely a disability. And then my journey, if you will, led me to think, okay, well, if it's a disability, then can you get disability benefits? The answer is no, you can't. So I thought it was very interesting.
Okay.
Wait,
So you
hold
just
on.
stop there. Yeah.
If you're disabled, you can't. If it's a disability, you can't get benefits. But if you're disabled, you can. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm saying that addiction fits the classical definition or their definition of disability, which means it falls under the category. However,
Right.
you cannot get Social Security benefits as a disabled. Like it doesn't count as far as they're concerned. It's very interesting. The only thing that they mentioned when it comes to addiction, they said on their site that they don't care about an addiction. In other words, an addiction won't interfere with benefits. In other words, let's say you're an alcoholic, but you have disability and something else, and the alcoholism doesn't exacerbate that. It won't affect your ability to get disability benefits. However, if your disability is the addiction or anything that the addiction is causing, you will not get your benefits. I thought that was very interesting.
Okay. So it is interesting. It also leads me to then ask the question: are there any behavioral health disorders, any mental health disorders that are uh, that do allow you to qualify for benefits? Did you get that
Ooh.
far in your research?
No, I did
Like
not.
depression, anxiety, bipolar, schizophrenia. I mean, I would think that when you got to the heavier diagnoses like schizophrenia,
But
I would think that
will
the
that
answer would be yes.
So it
but
says
will
here
that
for
fall under a disability though?
well, there are some mental disorders that include that count as disability. Mood disorders, autism or Asperger's, schizophrenia, depression, and PTSD. So those count as disability. Now, as far as what you can
Right.
get disability benefits for, I don't know if those are covered or not. I didn't get that far into it.
Okay. Okay. See, I think that it automatically makes me go there with my thinking because I can't help but think of a disability without being again able to collect some sort of benefit if you are disabled.
Yeah.
But I don't know how I feel about that when it comes to this particular disease, Trinity. And now being mindful that I know not only am a person in remission from it, but I've treated it for over 30 years as a professional, and yet my initial impression, I got to be honest, Trinity, my initial impression is to not be open about receiving benefits for this particular disability. And I'm even questioning my own self while I'm saying it to you, Trinity. I'm kind of thinking out loud based on what you said already and based upon this conversation. I mean, I'm not, I didn't want to think it all out. I didn't want to plan for this. I wanted this to be very organic and very fresh in my mind. So I'm glad you did your research so I can just be free to be just present in the moment where I wanted to be and kind of like, do I, and I got to say my initial impression or my instinct is saying, I don't think I'm comfortable equating it to a disability of movement. You know what I mean? Or a disability that keeps you from being able to work because there is such a because there's a treatment attached to it that if you do it, you are not the same person. The recovery and remission from this is there within grasp. If you follow some protocols. Now, I do realize that your disease may disallow you or prevent you or keep you from doing so successfully, maybe the first time, maybe even the 100th time, but it's there within your grasp. I think that's why it's making it difficult for me to just, compare it to maybe a physical disability. Like you said a wheelchair earlier, like someone like Marissa, who is watching right now. She can't go to meetings, go to therapy, get a doctor, and then, within months, then now be able to walk freely without her wheelchair. You know what I mean? So I don't equate it equally, and I'm not so sure it's right for me to not equate it equally or wrong for me. I haven't decided yet. Where are you at it when you first think about it?
So I think my knee-jerk response is to agree. And I'm also going to mix my emotional response in with a little bit of the actual, I guess, logistics of everything, right? So when all that stuff was happening with my heart, it made me think, hey, does this count? Because I saw sometime it said something about disability with heart conditions and whatnot. And then you and I were having a conversation one day, and it was frustrating that none of the doctors, none of them seemed to be in a rush to deal with any of this. And so, like, in theory, had I had a job that required a lot of movement and things of that nature, what would I be doing right now? And so I did look into to see if it was even possible, right? And so that's when I learned for the first time what the requirements would be to get some sort of a disability, benefit, if you will. Essentially what they're wanting is if you can't do, now granted, I know there's outliers and there's loopholes and things of that nature. I'm just going off the gist of what was told to me. In order to qualify for a disability, what they're looking for is you can't do any job. Like you can't even sit and like monitor a screen for any length of time, that kind of stuff. In other words, they made it the younger you are, right? The older you get, it's a little bit easier to qualify. But when you're younger, it's a little bit harder as far as the requirements. I mean, this was a pretty well-off disability attorney that I spoke to. Like, this is all they do. They've actually helped out many, many people I know get it. And this is what they told me. They said essentially at the younger age, and they consider younger is like under like 60, under. Are you fit? Now they don't care. That's the thing, is they don't care if you can make enough money to support yourself with a job. They don't care if anybody wants to hire you or not. What they care about is, are you physically able to do a job? And if you are, then they don't really want to give you disability. It doesn't mean that they won't. It just means there's a little bit more hoops and stuff you got to jump through. So knowing that definition and knowing that as the criteria, I kind of have to lean with you on the fact of, I don't think, being addicted doesn't mean you can't do a job. Now, granted, if you're high or you're drunk or whatever, yeah, you're impaired, but that goes with anybody. My immediate fear, to be honest with you, thinking about all this, if I'm just going to cut straight to brass tacks, right? The idea, like, I just picture too many people just taking up drinking and saying I need a disability. Like, I just see it going really off the rails very quickly. So I don't think that would be a good idea. And I agree with you. You're not going to, I have a hard time equating somebody who like lost both their legs and something and with somebody who has an addiction problem. Like, I have a hard time equating those two in my life. I don't know if that's right or wrong, but that's kind of where I'm at.
Yeah. And it makes me start thinking that like maybe there's levels of disability. Like, I know, like, my father is a retired command sergeant major Army. definitely was injured to some degree, maybe not by bullet or by fire, but was in combat, and therefore the PTSD is there.
Right.
As he's gotten older, it's a little bit more evident as we've learned more about post-traumatic stress disorder, as we've learned more about Agent Orange and the effects of that. You know, he was there for 3 TED offenses, 3 major TED offenses out of 4, I think.
What's a TED offense?
It's when there was a whole bombardment of people. I am not the guy to ask. I'm sure there's somebody watching or listening
Okay.
who understands, you know, that field knowledge a lot better. I'm just going by, you know, how my father explained it, and he kind of said it quick. I guess it was 4 major TED offenses, which means that on all fronts they were being attacked at all fronts at the same time. It wasn't just little battles; it was just like a full-fledged attack coming from all fronts and all sides at the same time.
All sides, yeah.
From all over the place. Yeah, from all sides, where it was a completely horrendous deal, and apparently he was there for 3 of them. And so we now know that, you know, his COPD, so the lung issues, we know some of the stuff that he has to deal with is definitely related to COPD and PTSD, which they're now linking a lot of this to the Agent Orange. So when I think of my father and think of his hearing loss and think of all his difficulty in walking now, you know, as a result of a serious injury he had, that yes, in time he went from a certain percentage of disability. Now he's at 100% disabled under the military VA standards, and it took a long time to get there. I mean, this guy's he's 83 years old now,
Right.
but it took that long to get to permanent disabled, where little by little they would increase his level of disability. So I think that when I hear this, I automatically go to the fact that maybe there's a certain percentage that once you hit a level or a percentage of disability, it becomes to the point where benefits can be awarded to you. Whereas
Right.
I think the disease of addiction, even though it's ugly, we don't like it. We don't like the decisions that people make while they're suffering with addiction, and the horrific things that they can do while they're suffering with it. I just don't think it's worthy of financial benefit or certain benefits. Now,
Right.
if you tell me insurance benefits, I would say absolutely.
Of
I would
course.
say, I mean, yeah, because I think that anyone that suffers addiction, if that's a condition that meets criteria for disability, which clearly you just read it and it did, then you should be eligible at least for the behavioral health insurance. You know, I'm not talking about a pap smear. I'm not talking about, the ability to go to a Planned Parenthood or anything like that, or dental work. I'm talking about something specific. I'm talking about behavioral health benefits that allow you to go to detox, allow you to go to treatment, allow you to get therapy, allow you to get medical help to deal with your disability of addiction. Now, in that respect, I think that we could have maybe some healthcare reform to do a carve out specifically
Right.
for this level of disability. Now that I
Yeah.
think I can get behind. I think that would interest me.
Yeah, I think I could agree with that as well. We have quite a few comments. Let me get through,
Okay.
some of these real quick.
Okay.
So a
Put 'em
couple
on,
of
let me
them were commenting. Yeah, you're live. Margie from Facebook said, "Hey fellas, what's up, Margie?"
Margie.
Look, Marissa put our website on there for us. Look at that, nowmatters.org. And Marissa said, "I won't run either of you over, so don't be afraid to be honest with your opinions." Then she said, "Darn." She didn't use that word, but we're on radio. So, darn Trinity, you did your homework. This is already a much deeper than I thought it would be. Of course, girl, we do our
Right.
homework. Then she said, as far as the topic, you do your homework as well. You're a cat. We all know that. She said, anxiety can be considered a disability. I believe they probably have to interview you to find out, like Trinity said, if you can do the job or not. Then she said, as a physically disabled woman from birth, I think addicts in recovery should be just as eligible for benefits if they can't do a job as anyone else. It shouldn't stop them from receiving it. On the other hand, like I think Louis is trying to allude to, the word disabled has a connotation like you can't do something. After you get treatment, you can take your power back from the disease and are able to do a lot more. The level of powerlessness that happens when addiction has its grip on you can be, and then it said can be C. I can't read the rest of it. Clara says, I also agree. And then finally, Marissa said, don't be afraid to say that, Trinity. I appreciate you being careful, but I say the same thing about some physically disabled people. Some people do use the system. It's a shame. We might have a different answer to the topic tonight if that weren't the case. So,
Right.
and
right.
I from
Yeah,
our
and
setup, I can't read the rest of her other comment, by the way. But
that's okay.
Well, I think she just
Okay.
said the last thing she said can be the case.
oh, okay.
Oh, okay. All right. So, Shaw, so far with what you're hearing, I mean, and your understanding of disability, Shaw, what are you thinking?
Well, I after sitting here listening and trying to captivate the thing, because my mindset went to like, well, who are we to judge about the disability of people and what they got going through? My aunt, for example, has fibromyalgia where it causes her body to lock up sometimes and she can't even move out of the bed. But
Yeah.
I never asked if she's gotten disability or anything, because my auntie is one of them women that just, man, I don't need your help. Let me go do it myself and just get it done. But
Right.
you done put me on the fence now. So I'm on the fence after hearing what was discovered, and addiction. Yeah, I'm on the fence right now. I don't know. But I'm not judging.
All right.
Am I?
Yeah.
Is that considered judging?
Yeah, that's fair. Well, no, that's fair. I really think the more I think about it, the more I'm leaning towards levels of,
Right.
and I'm not sure that there's not levels of. I'm going to guess that there are. And look, if anybody out there's an expert in this field of disability, what is disability, what isn't disability, and what constitutes reimbursement or protection, or even better than protection, benefit. Because I got to think about all that. There's disability protection, right? So if you violate the rights of a disabled person, that comes with a little bit stiffer penalty than if you violate the rights of an everyday person.
Well, I think that's
so
part of it, right? Like that's
What?
I think that is that's the conundrum we're dealing with right here. Is we kind of have to separate it, right? We have to separate it from disability, as in, hey, I need to be looked at differently, versus disability of I need benefits for this. I think those are two different
Right.
discussions, if I'm
Right.
honest. Because I think that we
Right.
all would agree that the symptomology that's associated with addiction, the behavioral issues, are absolutely fit within the parameters of what a disability is and what it does to you, because we all agree that it's a disease. So if you have a
Right.
disease that's doing these things to you, then we need to acknowledge that. I think where the gray area or the muddy water is when we start talking about what level of benefits you should receive from that. I think that's where it starts to get
Right.
kind of mucky.
Right. Well, because I was going to say, like in college and school, right? If you are diagnosed by a psychiatrist, I don't even know if it has to be a psychiatrist, but I think it does. And you can provide proof that you are ADHD, or I think even ADD. I think you can get extra time on your test. I think that there are certain
I literally just did
procedures that
that.
you can go. What you did? What?
My son has a 504 plan now, is what it's called here in the state. A 504 plan just basically
Okay.
means kind of what you just said. He's never been diagnosed with anything as far as ADHD or anything like that. Just with the Orange County public school system, the way it's set up now is if all the teachers and the parents and stuff can agree that your kid would benefit a little bit with some extra time, or if they read something to you, or they move you away from certain distractions, things of that nature, then it's called a 504 plan, and they renew it every year. If you get it seen, if so, like, I'll use my son as an example. I mean, I don't mind putting some of his stuff out there. He's 11. He gets distracted easily. My assumption, he's got
So
some.
so
Go
time
ahead.
out, and this is why TikTok was calling you a violator to his life, and they
Yeah,
wanted to harm you
Right.
sure,
Right.
because you don't
sure,
care putting his stuff out there.
Yeah.
But go ahead, Trinity, Mr.
yeah,
Anti
sure,
TikTok,
right?
violator, abusive father.
Yeah, I'm a horrible person.
Go ahead.
Although
Go
he's
ahead.
graduating from 5th grade tomorrow morning, by the way. That's why I can't do
Oh,
the show early.
congratulations. Yeah.
Yes, he's having a promotion ceremony, is what they're calling it. He's going into middle school finally. But no, I mean, he gets excellent grades, right? Like when he actually sits down and does it, he gets like straight A's. He's incredibly intelligent. However,
Right.
he gets distracted easily. If somebody's doing something, he's going to look over, which I'm the same way. I honestly believe pretty much everybody has a touch of ADD or ADHD. I don't think that's a rare thing. Yeah, I think we all have something of it. But for him, I was just noticing that his teacher and him were kind of getting into a little bit over things that I thought could have been helped out had he just been given a little bit more of a structured environment. And so when I talked to the teachers, they brought up the 504 plan. I looked into it. I called around, and he qualified for the 504 plan. And it's only been maybe a week because school's ending now, and summer's coming up. But in the last week or so, they had FCAT testing, which is our statewide, ran test. He was on the 504 plan. It was enacted, and he was actually doing better. Like, his behavioral issues at school were not as intense or whatever. And a lot of it had to do with removing some of the distractions and letting him focus a little bit better. And so, yes, like, it's funny that you bring it up, but yeah, it's called a 50, at least in this state, it's called a 504 plan.
Okay. And so we know those exist, right? And I'm sure in other states they have something similar, if not the same thing. So that is due to a disability, right? I mean, isn't it? So I think if the name of the show is addiction a disability, I think the answer is clearly yes. It meets the Webster's definition of disability. In any other definition that you may be going by is just your own head. And I think by most normal educated heads, I think we could say that it qualifies as a disability as long as you don't automatically say disability equals benefits, as long as you don't say disability equals protections. And I think that's where we get into more of a discussion. Am I wrong, guys? Am I wrong that that's when it seems like the arguments would be?
No, I'm well, first off, the way you said it is whatever is just in your head. I'm sorry, it's not funny, but it's just in your head. But whatever your presumption
is, because we redefine everything. Yeah, because everybody's got definitions in their head, man. Everybody wants to change the definitions of words these days, man.
Don't get us started.
And so Webster put definitions in place. We all agree with Webster when we agree with them, right? And then all of a sudden, you don't want to agree with Webster because you get
what's in your head
bunched up.
Well, I've actually got a question
in your head, and you deal with it. That's matter of fact, you might have a disability. If you don't agree with Webster, you might have a disability.
There you go. I'm saying. Well, there's a lot of disabled people then. I actually do have a question for our listener, right? So Marissa's the one who actually originally posted this thought on one of our previous shows.
Right.
So I'd like to get Marissa, if you're still watching, can you comment on the Facebook page where your mind was at when you asked the question? Because I think something occurred to you and you asked that question. So in what context did that question come about? Because I think that's obviously we have to ask ourselves, why does this matter, right? If we label it or not, like, what is the purpose of trying to see if it is? And if it is for the benefits, then I agree that's a much bigger conversation.
Trinity, I suggest you just send her the link and let's just bring her on if she wants to come on. Whenever she logs on, just go ahead and pull her up and we'll have her on as long as she has a good Wi-Fi, better than mine. What's the harm? No harm, no foul.
Also,
so send her the link.
And also you can call Sean? In. You can also call in.
She can call in. It'd be easier because I'd have to
do things.
407-894-1680. That's the number.
There you go.
All right, say it again. Just what, Shaw? Can you just put it on the chat right there?
Okay.
All right. So again, I want to get back to I really do believe that as long as we're not giving extra monies or protections to somebody, I don't think most people care what we call a disability, what we don't call a disability. Here's what I could already hear people say though, Trinity, is like, don't make excuses for the person. You know what I mean? They made a choice, right? So we already know that there's a stigma attached to addiction and behavioral health issues, right? First of all, we haven't even really come out with a good name from it. We went from mental health to behavioral health, which both of them sound ridiculous to me. Mental health makes it sound not so good. Behavioral health doesn't make it sound any better to me, right? But somehow that's where we're at these days. But we know there's a stigma attached to especially addiction, the disease of addiction, where many people feel that because it comes with a decision, that it's due to the decision rather than due to the biology or chemistry or maybe some other issues that may be out of that individual's control. People feel, well, if I drink and I can handle it, you should be able to drink and handle it. Well, guess what? Some of you people have food allergies. And so like I would tell you, I can eat peanuts and shellfish. And then there's people like Shaw, who's somehow wimpy and he cannot handle it. He can't handle his shellfish and peanuts the way me, a man, can. Right, Shaw?
Yes.
Right. And then we have me, who I can have sugar in plentiful status. I can eat 6 donuts if I choose to. But then you have somebody weak like Trinity, who's too dumb
I
to be
can
able
have
to
6
process
donuts.
sugar properly, to be able to process sugar properly, which is why he's diabetic. So that's because he's dumb and unable. Isn't that right, Trinity?
I'm not insulin dependent, so I can have 6 donuts.
Yeah, you can't prove you're diabetic, meaning you cannot.
That's
You
all
just
right.
think you can. So anyway, but if people would talk the way I just talked to, by the way, people, that was all as a joke. So do not think I'm
No,
really
we're gonna cut that clip out, and I'm gonna share it everywhere.
Listen,
You know, the point is that Shaw didn't choose to be weak, and Trinity didn't choose to be weak because it's not a weakness. It is a form of a disability. It is a form of a disorder in place. Now, here's the difference, Trinity. Is a disability a disorder? And is a disorder a disability? Are those the same words relatively?
That I don't know. I didn't look that one up.
Listen, we got Marissa on the phone line.
All right.
Are you ready for it?
Okay.
Let's do it.
And just save Trinity
Marissa,
and
you
bought
ready?
Trinity some time to look up disorder.
I'm here.
Right.
Hey, Marissa, how are you?
Good. How are you guys?
You're doing fantastic, Marissa. Well, welcome to the Couch Live. Now, for those people that don't really know your situation and what makes you a lived experience expert in disability, can you just give us a brief understanding of what makes you a lived expert?
Okay, it's going to be really short because the explanation of what it is long. So I was born with spina bifida, which is a birth defect. Short and sweet. And I've been in a wheelchair all my life, paralyzed from the knee down.
Okay, paralyzed from the knee down. So is there any possibility of that changing in your lifetime as you know it currently? Is there any research being done that says this can be reversed or changed?
Not without being a project that, like, the recovery wouldn't be worth it for me. I wouldn't choose, no matter what came out, to be a guinea pig.
Right. So in how many years are we talking about, Marissa, that you've lived with spina bifida?
That is the nicest way for a man to ask a woman her age that I've ever heard. 35 years.
Right on. All right. So 35. So in 35 years, have they made any advancements that have been of any significance in the study of spina bifida?
Sorry, that was funny.
It's not such an easy word. Took me a while.
I mean, I guess there's different things, different people. There's different levels of spina bifida. There's different things that can affect somebody's body. So it really depends on what's quote unquote wrong.
Okay. So for your particular type, have there been any advancements in 35 years that have been of any significance?
I haven't really paid attention after I had like a 12-hour surgery that was supposed to be 99% effective to put my hip back into place, and it came out.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
so I just kind of don't pay attention anymore.
Wow.
So are you considered disabled?
Yes.
Are you considered 100% disabled?
No, because 100% disabled is pretty much you can't do anything to care for yourself.
Okay, so
like I could get up, I could go to the bathroom myself.
They rate you? Do they rate you? And yeah, do they rate you, Marissa? And if so, do you get regular appointments, medical appointments, where they reevaluate that rating?
If you're born with it, no. Like, all I have to do is, like, I'll get a letter in the mail. Are you still disabled? Yes. Okay, you could still get your benefits. Like, when it's a birth defect and you can prove that, no. But if it's somebody who's just on plain disability who became disabled, then they have to go and get evaluated more often.
Wait, I'm sorry, Marissa. Hold on. You said you just get a letter in the mail to just state whether you are or not.
Whether I'm still unable to do a physically strenuous job because of my disability? Yeah. Are you still unable to work? Like I, sorry, I went to go up the block when I first moved to this town to be a shelf girl at a library. They told me that they found somebody more qualified, which I could have sued them for, but it wasn't worth it because I got a babysitting job right after that, part-time.
Wow.
And yeah, but I was like, wait, not qualified? I literally I just did what you told me to do. I took from the highest shelf. So we can get into a whole nother topic with addiction and discrimination another week if you guys want. I could bring up disability discrimination on that.
Right.
Well,
Wow.
I've got the definitions, by the way.
Okay, of disorder? And
both, yeah.
All right, you put them right next to each other or something? Okay, go for it.
Well, so disorder, I'm gonna have to read this. So disorder refers to an illness that disrupts the individual functioning, whereas a disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements, senses, and activities. So it seems like disorder has to do with our functioning, and disability has to do with our abilities and senses.
Like physical
Interesting.
ability, it sounds like the differences.
Yeah, so disorder just means basically you can't function. I think the implied, the implication here is functioning as normal, if there ever is such a thing. To whereas disability has to do with your ability to physically do things or sense things, like like an eating disorder affects your ability to function as a normal person to eat and stop when you're whatever. To whereas a disability would be like if you're blind, then you physically can't see something. So I mean, that's how I read it.
So
pretty much.
But in the definition of disability, does that ever use the word physical?
Disability, it says a disability is a physical or mental condition that limits a person's movements,
And there you go, the
senses,
or.
and activities.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Yep, but there you go. So as soon as it said or mental, that's where I would think that disorder and disability can be used equally when it comes to the mental, just the mental part.
Yeah.
Because if it can be if a disability can be a mental disorder, and we know that mental disorders are disorders, right? There's by definition, they're disorders. So I guess when it comes to the psychological component, it's both. If it comes to physical, like Marissa doesn't suffer a disorder, it's just a disability. That's the way I'm hearing it.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
Okay.
it said for disorders, they can usually be treated, if you will, with medicine and stuff like that. Whereas a disability, you can't treat somebody who's missing a leg. Well, I guess technically you could give them a prosthetic, but
right. And I guess do you guys think I'm wrong? Am I wrong to believe that whenever we have these kinds of conversations, if it gets to the point of government, or if it gets to the point of any kind of authority figures, having this conversation, it's because we're talking about monies, right? And then if we're talking about monies, nobody wants to give money to a recovering person. Nobody wants to give money to the disability of addiction.
I think that's what it boils down to.
Whatever you want, right? Is it right? Am I wrong here?
What it is.
Go ahead.
I think it has to be twofold, because just like for me, on a government level or a medical level, yes, I want to be considered disabled, quote unquote, because I want to be eligible for the things that are out there, as far as, whatever it is. Like, if something were to go wrong, or if I'm eligible for any money, if I can't do a full-time job. Yes. And I think that if an addiction did something to an addict, whether it was a car accident or whatever it could be, something even, mentally, like maybe after an OD, if that happens because of an addiction, they shouldn't be any less able to get those benefits than somebody who, like, let's say was born with it. Like, I think the
Right.
fact that in recovery, and mind you, to anybody listening, I am not in recovery. I don't classify myself as an addict. I'm the loved one of an addict. So if anything, I would be a codependent, recovering codependent. But the way that I look at it is, if you, okay, no, my phone screen went dead, but you're still there. So if you go to treatment and you're a totally different person, you know, that's one thing.
Right.
And you can get, if, like, let's say your addiction did something to you where you are not physically or mentally able to do something in the world, you should be completely eligible to get what you need. But like you guys said, I don't want people using that. And I also don't want the stigma that comes along with the word disabled to affect even more people in society, like peer to peer.
Right. Yeah, and it's really hard to
socially,
separate that.
the stigma.
Yeah. And look,
Because
and to be quite honest with you, look, you know, everybody wants the benefits of something, but they don't want the stigmas attached to it. That's the norm, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we want the benefits that come with what, you know, what we can get. Now my issue with this is that even when we're talking about jobs, like when you says, you know, when you said unable to get, you know, jobs, it's certain jobs, right? And you may not be able to look, there's a lot of us out there with all different kinds of issues. Let me call them issues. Let me not say disorders. Let me not call it disabilities. None of that. I'm just going to say issues, different issues. And don't take issue with that. If you want to take issue with that, call Trinity. You know, he'll filter through the complaints. But what I'm saying is there's certain issues that I have that disqualify me to get certain jobs. For instance, I cannot be a professional football player. I cannot be a professional basketball player. I cannot even be a jockey. You know, those are some physical issues that I may have, the physical challenges that I have that disallow me from having those jobs. But it doesn't mean that I can't be a Walmart greeter. Like, I'm perfectly qualified to be a Walmart greeter. Now, I think a lot of times people want a job they're really not qualified for, or they want a profession maybe they can no longer do or can't do because of an issue they may have. Now, I'm not trying to make fun of it or make light of it. I'm simply saying that doesn't mean there's not other occupations, that there's a lot of individuals that they can do. And here's where they're stuck with people, that once they receive certain benefits, which they should get, the medical benefits and Social Security benefits are they're not even that much, but they're enough that if you go out there and earn over, like, let's say $12,000, or there's an amount, I think it's $12,000, then it disqualifies their disability. So we force them to not work because we put them in a situation where even though if they can make money for themselves, they have a salary cap. What I don't like is that people with any kind of issue that we've deemed a disability, that we put a salary cap on them and say, you are only allowed to get what we give you and plus 12,000. And then that's it. You're not allowed to make $100,000 a year. You're not allowed to make seven figures in a year. You're not allowed to be a successful entrepreneur. You're not allowed to be, because if you can do that stuff, then you are not disabled. But that doesn't mean they're not disabled. It doesn't. And it doesn't mean they shouldn't qualify for some of the things they get. And those are the reasons that I think that we all get in these arguments or discussions, whether something's a disability or not, because none of us want to come out of pocket and pay for somebody when we look at them and say, well, dude, that dude doesn't, nah, he can work. That dude can work. You know, haven't any of you ever, like, driven down the road, you see somebody begging for money, a homeless person, and looked at him and go, that dude looks perfectly fine. Why is he holding a sign that says, you know, give me money or pay for food, pay for this, or we'll work for food, when they look like they can do a job? Don't tell me you've never thought about that. I think most of us have.
But see, that's what I'm saying. I was at that point, but then I realized my auntie was that one with fibromyalgia hitting her body at different points at different times.
And you couldn't see it.
I stopped looking at, like, well, I don't know what that person really got going on in their life and what they're going through.
Right.
So who am I to say what you can and can't get?
But that makes it harder to classify because then more people can fake it. And the thing is there are, I'll sum it up. There are so many people who deserve and need the services, but there are a lot of people who take advantage of it and ruin it for those people who need it.
Right.
That's the problem.
You know what? And that is the summation. That is the summation. And that's what we all fear. That's why we don't like, throwing labels that come with our tax dollars. Because as soon as a label comes with our tax dollars, we start questioning those that fake it and lie about it. Look, I really think there's a lot of people out there that would have no problem putting money into buckets that help the homeless and help the starving. But because it becomes a political issue, and the only reason it becomes a political issue is because we don't trust where that money's really going, and we don't trust how people are being filtered in and out. And then the Crips and the Bloods will argue about social monies. But the Crips and the Bloods would never argue about these social monies, right, if it wouldn't go through those filters, if it went directly to individuals, and if it was something like you could see in an MRI, you could see, like something real plain as day. And I think that's why, Trinity, you said you think wheelchairs, and so do I. When I hear disability, when I see it, what's even on the stupid little picture of the parking thing, right? It has a little wheelchair.
Well, there's another component here.
It doesn't have a brain. It doesn't have a little brain on there that says, "Hey, Louis needs to park closer to." What was that?
I said, you guys have known me for a long time. Maybe that's why, though.
There you go.
I mean, maybe, but I just go to that little placard that my parents have, because my dad no longer has that ability to walk very far. But I know that my brother gets upset with my mother when my mother puts that placard up and parks using that thing when my father's not in the car. My brother gets upset with her and says, "Look, that's not meant for you. You can't use that, Mom," and shames her, even though she's also in her 70s.
Well, there's another component here too, by the way, like that we already know, but I don't think we've really mentioned much tonight. The other emotional component when it comes to giving, benefits potentially to disabled, whatever, there's a massive difference in the public sphere of, like cancer never made anybody break into grandma's house and steal her pearls, So like there's a component here of the hurt that is accompanied typically with addiction that sets people on got a negative taste in their mouth, and I think that, it's sad, but it is a part that the disease of addiction doesn't always, but can and usually does make you do some really horrible things to people around you.
Make you an offender. Yeah, you're an offender.
You hurt people.
You're an offender. You're a predator. Right.
Yeah. And I think that because of that, anybody who's been touched by it, when you start to talk about it, it evokes certain emotional responses from them. So whereas there's not like a whole group of cancer victims out there, or cancer survivors, or whatever you want to call them, out there doing horrible things to people. And so I think that also comes into play. I think that's part of the stigma, or why it's so easy for so many people to have a stigma towards addiction, is because it's easy to point to that person who hurt you and say, "I'm not giving them anything."
Right.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be in charge of deciding when somebody in recovery could start receiving benefits, because I would, in my head, think of the times that I was stolen from and all that. So I wouldn't advise anybody who was on the receiving end of that treatment to make the deciding factor. I would want somebody with a clean slate and qualified to make that decision.
No pun intended. Clean slate. Yeah, you're right. I mean, and that's where we're at. And that's exactly where we're at, man. We all fear that. We fear the abuse of the system. And Trinity, you're dead on point. I think that because of the predatory nature of many, and the offense that many people that suffer addiction present and show in certain stages of their own disease of addiction, that it doesn't make you a very likable human being. And we don't want to give benefits and awards or rewards to people that are not likable. It bothers us, we don't feel sorry for them at that moment. We feel sorry for the victims. And there are many, many victims of disease that don't have the disease. They're on the opposite end. They're on the receiving end of the disease. So that's what makes the disease of addiction complicated in the first place. That's what gives its stigma in the first place. And that's why we need to have more faces of recovery and faces of remission out there so that we can see people that live good, productive lives, that have gone through and beat addiction and have lived in remission from the disease of addiction, so that you can see that should many individuals get the opportunity to get the help they need, medical help, behavioral health help, then we can have more success stories. And so that's why I'm pushing that if we do ever see this question on a ballot or this question somewhere where your vote can make a difference, please look at it in that context. Excuse me, that if it comes with the ability to give somebody medical, excuse me, they're cooking something down there that's getting in my throat. If it comes with the ability to give them, it must be. If they give them something that gives them the medical help that they need, then I'm all for it. I'm all for it. If you're classifying something a disease or a disability or disorder in order to give them medical attention and behavioral health attention, I'm 100% all for it.
You know,
if
if
you're
you
doing
were
it so that they can sit at home and smoke cigarettes all day long, then I'm against a lot of different public monies that we give that allow people to sit home and smoke cigarettes all day long. But then again, if I'm capped out at, 14 or 20 something $1,000 a year, then, you go do what you got to do. Let me sit home and smoke my damn cigarettes and leave me the hell alone, man. I mean, I'm capped. I'm tapped. That's it. I can't make much more than this. So you may be jealous of me that I'm sitting here and while you're going to work, but why be jealous of me? You're at least able to go out there and make more than 30, 40, 50, 60, 100, $1 million a year. And I am tapped. That's it. So I feel for any individual. Yeah, I know what happens. And I feel for those people. I feel for anybody that's receiving benefits that has a salary cap above them. And I just feel for that situation. I don't think it should exist like that.
I think I speak for Shaw and I both when I say I think I speak for both myself and Shaw that if you were stronger man, you wouldn't be coughing from the stuff that they're making downstairs.
Yeah,
look, just because you can't handle your sugar and Shaw can't handle his shellfish,
I mean, you can't handle cooking.
You guys are too weak to handle your sugar and shellfish. And I'm being smoked out here by burnt popcorn or whatever.
If you were stronger, you wouldn't be dealing with that.
Smoky.
I'm gonna go. Guess what? I'm gonna go downstairs in a few minutes and I'm gonna watch Aquaman because I don't know who Amber Heard is, and so my kids are here. Both my daughters are here. John's here, and my wife's here, and we're gonna watch Aquaman so they can show me who the hell Amber Heard is, and it all
keep
makes
everybody
sense
away from your bed.
Give the girls hugs for me. All three of them.
I will. Thank you very much, Marissa, for joining us. We'll see you next time, of course. Shaw, man,
Tomorrow.
Any final words and who's coming?
Hey, just pay attention. Who am I to judge? Who am I to judge?
No, I mean, but who's coming after us, Shaw, man?
The sideshow is coming up next right here. We got All Good Entertainment in the building. We got one of two here already ready to get it in and get it out because he's a strong soldier too. He don't handle hot stuff well.
He can't handle hot sauce. Another weak man. Can't handle hot sauce. Can't handle hot sauce. Can't handle shellfish. Can't handle sugar. All you weak men. Dharma guy, final words.
Yeah, I would say, gosh, man, it doesn't matter if it's a disability or a disorder. Like, just treat people with kindness, man. Like, does it matter if we label it or don't? Like, I think everybody deserves certain human, like emotions and kindness. Like, doesn't matter what it's labeled.
That's right. And that's what I got to say. Look, man, I don't care if what you got going on, but if you got something that requires medical attention, behavioral health attention, and you can get better from that medical attention, behavioral health attention, then it's damn straight a disability or disorder. And the words, I don't like them. I don't like the word disability. I don't like the word disorder. But what I do like is remission. What I do like is help. What I do like is better health. What I do like is a better life. And that's what I want you to have, a well-balanced and happy life. Enjoy yourself from all of us here on the Couch Live. Remember, he's at the Dharma Guy. I'm at the Dope Doctor. That's Shaw, man. And this was the Couch Live. It was Dope and Dharma edition of the Couch Live. Adios, amigos. It's time for a taco. Goodbye.